mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, drop all fear, all strife, all quarrels, open your eyes and your hearts. The supramental force is there. With my love and blessing, says our Divine Mother. Words of our Divine Mother from the Collective Words of our Divine Mother, Volume 8, Question and Answers, date 25th April 1956, page 120. Quote from Synthesis of Yoga, page 121. The child reads, beyond the limited human conception of God, He wills to the one divine eternal. For this, our Divine Mother says, what man calls God is a limited consciousness of God, not the full consciousness of God. So, he will go beyond this limited consciousness of God towards the true divine. Our Divine Mother says, Sri Aurobindo means that man has a limited knowledge, a limited consciousness and perception and experience of God, not the full experience of the divine, and that he must pass beyond this knowledge and perception in order to go to the vaster and truer perception. Question, sweet Mother, the justification of earthly existence. For this, our Divine Mother says, yes, the justification of earthly existence is that one is on earth to realize the divine. One is on earth to realize the divine. Without this reason, earthly life would be monstrosity. Silence. Then our Divine Mother speaks again and says, if there were not the supreme reason of rediscovering the divine, being Him, manifesting Him, realizing Him externally, earthly life as it would be something monstrous. Naturally, the more people are unconscious, the less do they understand this, for they do not objectify, they live mechanically according to habit, without even objectifying or being aware of their way of living. And as the consciousness grows, they realize the kind of monstrous hell life is, life as it is. And it is only when one becomes conscious. And it is only when one becomes conscious of that towards which life leads that one can accept it and understand it. It is only this purpose of life which makes it acceptable. Without that, it would be truly be a frightful monstrosity. Question, sweet Mother, what is a divine pleasure? For this, our Divine Mother says, it is the pleasure of the divine. The child says, how? For this, our Divine Mother says, what do you want me to tell you, child? You must live it. Then you will know what it is. It is what is called Ananda in Sanskrit. And we have often said before, to know this Ananda, one must first have completely renounced all human pleasures to begin with, for so long as a human pleasure delights you, you are not in the right state to know the Ananda. It may come to you and you will not be even aware of it. Then the child reads a quote and says, a spiritual truth and right have convicted the good and evil of this world of imperfection, of falsehood, and unveiled a supreme good But behind all these and in them, he has felt a divinity who's all these things, a bringer of light, a guide and all knower, a master of force, a giver of bliss, friend, helper, father, mother, playmate in the world game, an absolute master of his being, his soul's beloved and lover. Sweet Mother, can the Godhead be all these things at once for anybody? For this, our Divine Mother smiles and says, yes, and many more. This is only a very brief description. But here too, if one wants to have this experience, one must not seek in life and among men for these relationships. Because if one seeks them in the ordinary life as ordinary relationship, one becomes incapable of feeling them exactly as the divine can give them. And usually, most people, even those who have a living soul and seek these relations with the divine, only after they have had the most bitter and disappointing experiences in their search for human relationships. Our Divine Mother says, this makes them lose much time and waste a lot of energy. And usually they are already quite worn out and spent when they reach the state in which they are capable of having these relations in all their splendor with the divine presence. That means much time lost and much wastage of energy. But it would seem that very few people can go straight, avoiding all these roundabout ways. Mostly, when they are told that there is a divine joy and a divine plenitude, which for all they can imagine in ordinary life, they do not believe it. And to believe it, they must have, as I said, gone through a painful experience of all that is false, deceptive, and disappointing in ordinary relationship. It is said that example is the best teacher, but in fact, there are very few who care to follow an example, especially when the examples are little too far beyond them. They all want to have their own experience. They have the right to have it, but that makes the path interminable. Question, sweet mother, if one needs something like a mother's affection or some help, how can one feel it in the divine according to one's need? For this, our sweet mother says, what exactly do you want to say? For this, the child says, if, for example, one wants to know something or one needs guidance or something else, how can one have it from the divine according to one's need? For this, our Divine Mother smiles and says, by asking the divine for it. If you do not ask him, how can you have it? If you turn to the divine and have full trust and ask him, you will get what you need, not necessarily what you imagine you need. But the true thing you need, you will get, but you must ask him for it. You must make the experiment sincerely. You must not endeavor to get it by all sorts of external means and then expect the divine to give it to you without even having asked him. Indeed, when you want somebody to give you something, you ask him for it, don't you? And why do you expect the divine to give it to you without you having asked him for it? Our Divine Mother says, in the ordinary consciousness, the moment is just the opposite. You assume something saying, I need this relationship, I need this affection, I need this knowledge. Well, the divine ought to give it to me, otherwise, he is not the divine. That is to say, you reverse the problem completely. First of all, you say, I need. Do you know whether you truly need or whether it is only an impression you have or a desire or quite an ignorant moment? First point, you know nothing about it. Second point, it is precisely your own will you want to impose upon the divine, telling him, I need this, and then you don't even ask him for it. Give it to me, you say, I need it. Therefore, since I need it, it must be given to me quite naturally, spontaneously. It is the divine's job to give it to me, all that I need. But if it so happens that truly you don't know what you need and it is merely an illusion, not a truth, and that into that bargain you ask it from life around you and don't turn to the divine, don't create any relationship between yourself and Him, don't think of Him or turn to Him with at least some sincerity in your attitude, then as you ask nothing from Him, there is no reason for Him to give you anything. But if you ask Him, as He is the divine, He knows a little better than what you need. He will give you what you need. Or else, if you insist and want to impose your own will, He may give you what you want in order to enlighten you and make you conscious of your mistake, that is, that it was truly not the thing that you needed. And then you begin to protest. I don't mean you personally, I'm speaking of all human beings. And you say, why has the divine given me something which harms me? Completely forgetting that it was you who asked for it. In both cases, you protest all the same. If he gives you what you ask and then brings you more harm than good, you protest. And again, if he doesn't give it, you also protest, saying, what I told him I needed it, he doesn't give it to me. In both the cases, you protest, and the poor divine is accused. Only if, instead of all that, you simply have an aspiration within you, an urge, an intense, ardent need to find that which you conceive more or less clearly to be the truth of your being, the source of all things, the supreme good, the answer to all we desire, the solutions to all our problems. If there is in this intense need in you, you aspire to realize it. You won't any longer say to the divine, give this or give me that, I need this or I must have that. You will tell him, do what is necessary for me and lead me to the truth of my being. Give me what thou in thy supreme wisdom sees as the thing I need. And then, says our Divine Mother, and then you are sure of not being mistaken, and He will not give you something which harms you. There is still a higher step, but it is a little more difficult to begin with that. But the first one is already a much truer approach than that of telling the divine, I need this, give it to me. For indeed, very few people really know what they need, very few. And the proof of it is that they are always in pursuit of the fulfillment of their desires. All their effort is bent upon that, and each time one of these desires is fulfilled, one of these desires are not fulfilled, they are disappointed and they pass on to another. And after seeking many mistakes, suffering a good deal, and being very disappointed, then sometimes one begins to grow wise and understands and wonders if there wasn't a way out of all this, that is to say, a way to come out of one's own ignorance. And it is then, at that moment, then one can do this. And our Divine Mother opens her arms. Here I am. Take me. Lead me along the true path. Then all begins to go well, says our Divine Mother. Next page, 126, date 2nd May 1956. The child says, Sweet mother, Sri Aurobindo says that the union has a threefold character. First, the liberation from ignorance and identification with the real and eternal. For this, our Divine Mother says, this is the yoga of knowledge. The child says, then the dwelling of the soul with or in the divine. For this, our Divine Mother says, this is the aim of the yoga of love. The child says,
she passed seeking the soul's mystic cave. At first, she stepped into a night of God, the face of dawn, out of moon twilight glow. Day came, priest of a sacrifice of joy, into the worshipping silence of her world. He carried a mortal luster as his robe, trailed heaven like a purple scarf, and wore as his vermilion calf mark a red sun.
then the child says, then identity of nature, likeness to the divine, to be perfect as that is perfect. For this, our Divine Mother says, that is to say, not only is there union in the depths, but there is also union outwardly in the activities. There is union in the knowledge, union in love, union in works. To put it otherwise, says our Divine Mother, the yoga of knowledge, the yoga of love and devotion, the yoga of works. These are the three modes of approach that Sri Aurobindo speaks about. The child says, Sweet mother, here Sri Aurobindo speaks of the soul's native world. What is the soul's native world? For this, our Divine Mother says, it is the divine principle. Question, Sweet Mother, you have said the supramental has descended upon earth. What does that mean exactly? You also said the things that were promised are fulfilled. What are these things? For this, our Divine Mother says, that's ignorance indeed. This was promised a very long time ago, not only here, since the beginning of earth. There have been all kinds of predictions, all kinds of prophets. It has been said there will be a new heaven, new earth, a new race will be born. The world will be transformed. Prophets have spoken about this in all traditions. For this, the child says, you have said they are fulfilled. What is the new race? For this, our Divine Mother says, the new race, wait for something like a few thousand years and you will see it. When the mind descended upon earth, between the time the mind manifested in the earth atmosphere, the time the first man appeared, nearly 1,000,000 years elapsed. Now it will go faster because man expects it. He has a vague idea. He is expecting in some sense the advent of the Superman, while certainly the apes did not expect the birth of man. They have never thought of it, for the good reason that they probably don't think much. But man has thought of it and awaits it, so it will go faster, but faster, still thousands of years probably. We'll speak about it a few thousand years later. People who are inwardly ready, who are open, who are in contact with the higher forces, people who have had more or less direct personal contact with the supramental light and consciousness, are able to feel the difference in the earth atmosphere. But for that, only the like can know the like. Only the supramental consciousness in an individual can perceive this supermind acting in the earth atmosphere. Those who, for some reason or other, have developed this perception can see it. But those who are not even conscious of an inner being, just slightly within, and who would be quite a lot at a loss to say what their soul is like, these certainly are not ready to perceive the difference in the earth atmosphere. They still have a long way to go for that, says our Divine Mother, because for those whose consciousness is more or less exclusively centered in their outer being, mental, vital, and physical, things need to take on an absurd and unexpected appearance for them to be able to recognize them. Then they call them miracles. But the constant miracle of the intervention of the forces which changes circumstances and characters and has a widespread result, this they do not call a miracle, for only the mere appearance is seen, and this seems quite natural. But truly speaking, if you were to reflect upon the least little things that happens, you must be obliged to acknowledge that it is miraculous. It is simply because you don't reflect upon it, you take things as they are, for they what they are, without questioning. Otherwise, every day you would have number of occasions to tell yourself, really, but this is quite astonishing. How did it happen? Quite simply, it is a habit of seeing things in a purely superficial way, says our Divine Mother. For this, the child says, Sweet Mother, what should be our attitude towards this new consciousness? For this, our Divine Mother says, that depends on what you want to do with it. If you want to look at it as a curiosity, you have only to watch and try to understand. If you want it to change you, if you want it to change you, you must open yourself and make an effort